I'd like to introduce the current acting commissioner, Anthony Annucci. Commissioner? On this very solemn occasion, the 50th anniversary of the retaking of Attica Correctional Facility, and I thank you for inviting me to be part of your memorial gathering. Your presence here is not just a tradition, as was just stated, it is now a right that has been codified into statutory law. It is hard for me to believe that it has been 7 years since I last attended this annual gathering back in 2014, when we also arranged for the released artifacts from that terrible day in 1971 to be transferred to the appropriate survivors and family members in as dignified and as sensitive a manner as we could possibly provide. It is also hard for me to believe that it has been 19 years since the forgotten victims of Attica provided such compelling, heart-wrenching testimony and written submissions to the Attica Task Force. For me personally, your words will haunt me for the rest of my life. In fact, because of the significance of this anniversary, I took the time to reread the transcripts of those who testified at the hearings in 2002, as well as reread the written submissions you had provided. In some ways, the effect of this experience was even more profound for me than when I was present at the actual hearings, since with each revelation, I could stop reading, I could put down the transcript, and then I could carefully think about and even try to visualize what was being described, and inevitably come to the hard realization that no human being should have ever been made to go through that horrific experience. And as I reread the transcripts and again absorbed the incredible painful words of the different family members, I also realized that the 11 men whose names appear on the monument here at Attica were far more than just everyday people who went to work one day like millions of other New Yorkers, but who unfortunately happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time and got caught up in the maelstrom of the riot. They were husbands, fathers, sons, friends, neighbors, and co-workers who were not just loved by their families, but also loved and held in the highest esteem by their community. They were, to use a term that we often use to describe such people, they were the salt of the earth. In fact, the same can be said for every other person and their families who had been victimized by that terrible event, many of whom are no longer with us. Clearly, the world was a better place when they were in it. Unquestionably, there are so many lessons from that entire series of events, including the lessons we learned from the conditions that preceded the riot itself, the retaking of the prison, and the entire decades-long aftermath. How prisons in this country are managed and staffed today, and what programs and amenities are provided to incarcerated individuals have been radically transformed because of that terrible chapter in American history, and with good reason. As was noted in the 1972 report of the McKay Commission, Attica is every prison, and every prison is Attica. One additional and very important lesson that I personally learned from listening to your testimony and reading your submissions is that all of us owe a special duty to the forgotten victims of Attica, and that is the duty to listen quietly, respectfully, and with undivided attention to your words and how you describe your experiences, your pain, your suffering, and your frustration. And as we listen, we should really attempt to see, hear, and feel what it must have been like to actually experience what you went through. And then after we have done that, we should ask ourselves, if that had happened to any of us, would we have felt any differently, or would we have reacted any differently than any of you? I think not. None of us who were not there, nor directly impacted by that event, should ever presume to express an opinion one way or the other as to how you should feel, what you should believe, how you should move on, or what you should do to bring about healing in your own lives. Those are very personal decisions that are yours and yours alone to make. All of us instead should try to be as helpful, as respectful, and as accommodating as possible with each of your individual journeys through life. The profound words that you have chosen to have inscribed on the monument here at Attica are a painful reminder of one of the most unfortunate realities of the human condition, namely, man's inhumanity to man makes countless thousands mourn. Let me end on this one note, which is to repeat a promise that I had made to you back in 2014. At that time, I pointed out that when you first organized yourself to petition your government, you appropriately called yourselves the Forgotten Victims of Attica, and that since then, you had accomplished many things. But perhaps your greatest accomplishment was that you will never again be forgotten. Never. That promise is one that I again make to all of you today. Thank you.
Edward Cunningham, John DiArcangelo, Elmer Hardy, Herbert Jones, Richard Lewis, John Montleone, William Quinn, Carl Vallone, Eline Warner, Ronald Warner, Harrison Whalen.
Okay.